Hello viewers, it's time for the third round of the Nations Cup. Now it's an interesting race because it's Trial Mountain and there is a choice of 12 different cars. Now this was actually a data race a couple of months ago, and in that race the BMW M3 was the dominant car. Now I've joined just in time for the 10 o'clock race. I've only got one chance to get this right. Okay, into qualifying, this is going to be super important because this is a 10 lap race without much strategy in terms of pit stops, not much tyre wear either, and therefore qualifying position is going to be important, so I need to get this right. So let's take a look at the first attempt here in qualifying. Let's see if I can put together a good lap. Heading towards the first sector, very crucial for the lap time, as you can carry so much speed through this first sequence of corners if you get it dead right. We're using the BMW M3, as we mentioned at the start of the video. This was easily the most overpowered or the strongest car for this race. Out of the 12, this one was the one that pretty much everyone opted to go for. Right into the tight and twisty middle sector here at Trial Mountain. Really trying to get on the power as early as possible. It's quite a clunky car. I mean, it's a road car with a few aero bits on it, but it feels quite understeery. It does take a while to turn in, especially on this long looping left. Going on to the very long back straight, we're going to whip it forward here. Felt like a good exit, looking for that sign on the right hand side, braking just before it into this left-hander at the end of the straight, back on the power as early as you can. It feels like a good lap so far, 117.1 through that split. Ideally want to be in the 16s at least, but it's okay for now, this first lap, as I felt like my first sector was okay. We've probably improved as we've gone through the lap. Through the left at the bottom of the hill, and then only the final chicane remaining. Quite easy to get this one wrong. Quite hard to get a braking point exactly for this. But it tends to be just where the road flattens out. Over the curb. Try to get a good run on the right-hand corner. Onto the very long straight here. It felt like a good lap overall. It's going to be a 203.1, only 2/10 away from pole. However, on my second attempt, things went wrong quite quickly as the very strong penalties here came out to play, as you can see, hitting the barrier on the inside, and that pretty much completely ruined my lap. Then as a result of all of that, finishing in third, 7/10 away from pole position. So after all of that, guys, third on the grid, 7/10 away from pole position. I don't think I could have got pole, but second might have been on the cards with a good lap. You see there, it's the M3 Cup. Everyone in the race using the same car. So the BOP testing probably not really going to plan at all for polyphony. But this race is all about, I think, settling in. We've got a bit of a rolling start here, so it's not going to be a contested first sector at least. So let's see how this goes. 10 laps. Let's have a good result. I can assure you guys, as the lights go out here, that this was an absolutely incredible race. Sometimes these types of races come along every now and then, and you just get an absolutely incredible battle from start to finish, and this is going to be one of those cases. Now, when we did this race as a daily race a couple of months ago, the slipstream was set to incredibly strong, and that resulted in what you could call some artificially close racing, and that is going to be one factor here. There's no question about that. At the same time, it was a very good race, very tactical race because of that slipstream. Now, immediately, the pole sitter there, raising that inside of that apex, kind of how I did in qualifying, and getting an immediate 1.5 second penalty. Now the Spaniard in the lead, as we just saw, 7/10 quicker than myself, half a second quicker than the guy in second, and therefore he would be the main threat. There's no question. He's the fastest, and he was the fastest by quite a long way, and so that 1.5 second penalty is going to put him a bit further back in the pack. But on this straight, it looks like I'm going to be going a bit further back in the pack, as the guys behind well inside the slipstream range. I go very defensive, maintain the position. That's all I've really wanted to do here. Make sure I stay in third at least. These cars very close behind them, very much on the back foot through here. I just need to survive these couple of corners and get to the next straight, ideally within the slipstream range of one of the two cars in front, and that is kind of your defensive mechanism against an attack from behind, to be in the slipstream of the cars in front. So heading down towards the chicane for the first time. It's a 10-lap race. No need to go into the pit lane for this race, as the tyre wear and the fuel was very low and there was no requirement for a pit stop. Bit of contact on the apex of the turn there, which is suboptimal. On the exit, the gap has opened up behind, so no pressure behind. Spaniard serves the penalty, and therefore we're going to move up into second place. I don't think the Spaniard is going to lose any more positions than that, which would have helped me out, I think, if he had been pushed further back into the pack. Let's take a look, though, at the gap between myself and Just Bob 76, the race leader now. 1.5 seconds going through the first sector, and I would say just outside of slipstream range. I need to get that gap down by at least a couple more tenths before I can start pulling him in. Now this is quite a crucial phase of the race, because if Bob can manage to pull clear, then the race is probably his. However, given the tactical nature of this type of racing with the very strong slipstream, then this is a very important moment. He needs to pull away. I need to try and reel him in, and if possible, we'd work together as a team with the guys behind. If we start bump drafting each other down these very long straights here, Trial Mountain, you can easily start reeling in a couple of attempts per lap, and that's being quite conservative. I would say probably even half a second just by pushing each other up and down the straight. Not up and down, only up the straight, I suppose. You're not going to go backwards and go back down the straight, are you? But anyway, the gap has come down slightly. Started out about 1.4, 1.5 at the start of the lap, now 1.2. So we are slowly going in the right direction. Let's not forget we still have many laps remaining. The Spaniard still in close attendance with fourth place, a small gap behind as well. So it would be ideal, I suppose, if we could pull away as a group to minimise the amount of different potential winners of the race and to maximise your own chances of winning. Breaking into the chicane here at the end of the lap. He's gone quite deep in there. That's going to definitely cost him a couple of tenths. You see the gap goes momentarily up to 1.5 as he went in quite hard, then drops down below a second as we come up to the line with 8 laps remaining. So the Spaniard very much in tow. I can't quite shake him. I think it was just a matter of how that first lap played out. Lots of the cars behind started fighting, and therefore the pack wasn't very close, and so the Spaniard only lost 1 position to me and can live to fight another day. You might notice on the map on the top right of the screen, a lot of the drivers will remain in close contention given the slipstream strength, and that's why this is really crucial here, that we can actually pull away. And when you look at it, I suppose it just shows you how important all this fighting is on that first lap. Yes, you want to fight for your position and gain as many positions as possible, but sometimes it's best to not fight, keep in the race, play it tactically, remain in the race, remain within the slipstream with the cars in front to give yourself a chance. But that's something that comes with time, I suppose, and just understanding how each race plays out. So it's 3 away at the front here, quite easily. A massive gap now to 4th place, so we don't really have to worry about that. I'm going to move defensive here, up against the Spaniard, who's going to be forced to the outside. I'm very conscious of trying to keep him at arm's length as much as possible. Just Bob has gone a little bit wide here. It's going to be 2 abreast here, coming up into this awkward little chicane at the top of the hill. Side by side, bit of contact between the two of us, grazing off the wall. But I am, thankfully, going to manage to hold the speed around the outside and move up into the race lead. So lap 3, P1, things looking pretty good at this point. However, as we've mentioned, strong slipstream is going to be really incredibly difficult to pull away and maintain a gap from here to the end. I'm relying on these 2 guys fighting, but that's probably not going to happen too much. If they had any wits about them, they would at least work together to remain in the race. Just Bob there with a poor exit, and you can see here, traditionally with normal level slipstream, I might be able to edge clear here and get a gap, but he's just going to reel me back in even by about 2 tenths with that massive mistake, and it just shows you how hard it is to get a gap in these conditions. So through the first sector, gap goes back to 0.6. I feel like I can get this done I could create a gap, but it relies on doing it all between the two straights. As soon as you get back to the straight, they're just going to reel you back in immediately, especially if they start bump drafting each other. There's not much you can do other than just play this one tactically, and I'm just considering my position at this point. Obviously first place, but just in terms of can we realistically stay in first place for the entirety of the race, given the very long straights here at Trial Mountain. That is very difficult with this level of tow as well. So moving to the left hand side, this is a tactical element of this race. You see the two cars behind side by side. I would rather Bob would remain in second, given that I would think that the Spaniard is the faster of the three of us, and therefore I'd rather he remained in third. So this is just all about trying to put the pieces into play here, and just trying to put all the factors in your own favour. And I would rather the Spaniard was as far away as possible, given that I think he's the strongest player in this race, and that would therefore give me the highest chance of winning. So just trying to do every little thing I can to maximise the chances of coming out on top in this race. 309 points on offer for the race win in the second round, which you may have watched, which was the Honda RA272, the very awkward old school F1 car around Watkins Glen, scoring 277 points in that race. So I think anything above 300 for me is normally a good score. This is going to be quite an awkward situation here, because the two guys behind are very close. You might have noticed on the radar they both bump drafted each other, and that shows you, I mean, it's a clear example of how hard it is to keep the cars behind at bay. And Bob is going to go around the outside. That's okay, still remaining in second. Spaniard there, I think, tried to hang it around the outside from turn 1, had to back out at the last moment, just compromise himself slightly, but remains very much there, still in the race. So, slightly different situation now. Sat now in second position. Nothing too bad, just have to make sure we stay in the race. As long as I'm in this group at the beginning of lap 10, let's say, then there is a chance you can win. There's always a chance. And so we don't want to do a stupid penalty. It was very, very easy on this race to get a penalty. Any of the walls, and you know the walls are very close around here, you would get yourself a 1.5 second penalty, as the Spaniard did on lap 1. So moving back to the race lead, I might have opted to stay in second and start bump drafting him there, but felt like let's just do this. Let's swap positions for now. Keeps the Spaniard down in third, and have a bit of a buffer to him with the one car between us. So it's quite an interesting tactical element here. Still half of the race remaining. There's going to be plenty of swapping and changing from here to the end. I'm going to try to avoid barrier as much as possible. But around Trial Mountain, not something I've really realised in the past on the older games, just how close the walls do feel on this version of the game. And of course, when you get 1.5 second penalties, when the stewards are as strict as they are in this one, then you really do have to drive within your comfort limits, let's say, to not get those penalties. That is, I mean, it's a race-ending penalty if you get one, pretty much. Let's just say for the Spaniard, that hasn't been the case, but I think for me right now, if I were to get a 1.5 second penalty, that would end my chances of winning this race. So the Spaniard actually moves up into second there, as I was weaving a little bit on the straight, and Spaniard getting the run slightly, moving up into second place. It's going to be incredibly difficult here to keep him at bay, try to pull away, and therefore I decided through this middle sector that it would be quite important that I go out onto the back straight with quite a small gap. If you go onto that straight and the car behind is about 6/10 behind, they are easily going to slingshot past you. However, if it's 2/10 like it is now, and just tactically slow down here, drive a little bit slower than normal, and therefore the slipstream benefit isn't going to be quite as much, and they're not going to quite get that slingshot that they normally would. He is still going to go past though. The slipstream strength was definitely a little bit too strong in this race, I would say, and hopefully it's one that isn't used too often. So he does go through. Gives me enough time though to get back into the slipstream. You can see just how strong it is as we go in. Almost 3 abreast, and I just about managed to retain the position. 3 abreast temporarily here on the exit, but just having enough momentum to reclaim the race lead and maintain first place. Really difficult race to manage this one. Not sure exactly the best way to do it, but I think that it's going to plan so far. And even though there's plenty of time left, as Bob there makes a big mistake on the exit, and even if you do drop down to 3rd place, you know, it's not the end of the world. However, I do feel as though things are slightly out of your hands in that position, given that if the guy in 2nd makes a big mistake right in front of you, sometimes you're going to lose out as well, and therefore 1st place can get away, and it's beyond your capability to keep up. However, if you're in 2nd at least, you know, it's kind of on you to stay within the slipstream range. So you're just trying to keep as much control in your hands as possible. I think in the lead, obviously you have the most control, but 2nd isn't too bad, but 3rd, not the biggest disaster, but it doesn't help to be there, especially now entering the latter stages of the race. As we come out of the tunnel over the hill, maintaining solid position so far, which is 1st place. I mean, that's obvious. That's kind of obvious, really, isn't it? Trying to finish in 1st place. That's the whole idea. And here, trying to use our little trick again, just drive deliberately a tiny bit slow through this turn. Actually, the Spaniard's quite sensibly dropped off to give himself a better slingshot. And this is what I was speaking about a lap ago. I'm not really going to be able to stop this overtake from happening, because he's going to get such a run that there's no chance of me defending this, and therefore I don't bother defending it. And that's going to give the run to both of them, in fact. And so I wasn't quite able to tactically prevent that. I might have slowed down a little bit more, but then it might have got a bit stupid. Both of us all driving like 2 miles an hour on the exit. So back down to 3rd. This is what I just spoke about, not really wanting to be here. I'm at the mercy, I would say, of Bob now. If he makes a mistake and slows me down, we could both drop off together, and that would result in the Spaniard just pulling clear, and that would not be ideal. This is the situation I didn't really want. You know, the Spaniard has been in the lead at the very beginning of the race, dropped down to 3rd, and it's taken him until lap 7 here to get back into 1st place. And ideally, we really need to stick with him here, because we know he's quick. But it's my job, I suppose, as the rear gunner here, to bump draft Bob to make sure that we stay within range and to not fight him. However, this was definitely a mistake on my part. Just braking a little bit too late, carrying the brake a bit too deep into the turn. Did you see my reaction? I wasn't happy with that. That was completely my fault. Going to the back of Bob. This isn't over. The Spaniard, though, has gained about 1.3 on the pair of us. I decided to bump draft Bob, and we're actually going to gain a couple of attempts as a result of doing that. And unfortunately, Bob goes a little bit deep as a result of that bump draft, not quite judging the speed correctly, as I gave him an extra sort of 10-15 miles per hour. We're going to awkwardly fight through this chicane here, and this is exactly what we don't really want to be doing at this point. The end of lap 8, there is still time to recover this and to reclaim the top spot. Spaniard is 1.6 seconds in front. If we play this sensibly, there's still enough straights left in the race for myself and Bob to bump draft each other and get back in slipstream range. So this isn't over yet. Into the chicane, lap number 8. 2 laps remaining to get back on terms here and try to claim a win. I mean, I could still finish 3rd here, and that wouldn't be the worst result in the world, given that's where I started. However, given the way that the race has gone so far, I think a 3rd would be very disappointing. Unfortunately, on this lap, lap 9, looking behind, Bob wasn't really able to keep the pace, and I didn't really have a rear bump drafter, and we couldn't therefore really gain on the Spaniard on this lap. The gap did remain about 1.6, and so I seem to be level pace with him, but that isn't enough. I need more than that. I need to be gaining. I need to get within a second, and that's quite a tall order. But we're going to go on board with the Spaniard, because he's about to make an incredibly crucial mistake as we head down towards the final chicane here, lap number 9. Take a look here. he just drives beyond the track limit over the first apex of the chicane and gets himself a 1 second penalty. And I just spy this as we come through the exit of the lap, and you can see my reaction. My eyes light up. I know that there is now a chance of snatching the race win. The gap is 1.8 as we begin lap 10, the final lap of the race. Things are going to get incredibly spicy here at the very end of the race. The driver in front is going to serve that 1 second penalty at the exit of the final turn, and it is therefore going to be a drag race between the two of us to the finish line. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much time you're going to lose serving a 1 second penalty. It sounds really stupid to say that, but you don't actually lose 1 second, you lose a bit more than a second. And therefore this could be incredibly close, a photo finish as we head towards the finish line. I just need to make sure that this lap is a good one. I need to lap as quickly as possible to give myself the best possible chance of snatching this victory away on the finish line. As we head into the big braking zone here at the end of the back straight, gap down to 1.7, so it's kind of stabilised around that area, and actually going up to 1.8 you seem to get a better exit there from the turn. So this is going to be incredibly close. I couldn't believe my luck when I saw that 1 second penalty flash up. It only pops up temporarily when you get within a certain distance, so most of the time you can't even tell the car in front does have a penalty, but we can definitely see that now. The 1 second penalty is coming. As we come down towards the final chicane, it's going to be incredibly tense and incredibly close between the two of us. Let's see how it pans out. Come on! Yes! Get in there, Lewis! Oh my goodness. 0.2 of a second. What a race. What a battle. Oof. It's been a while since we had a Nations Cup win. That was a good one, that. I was a bit worried there with the Spaniard going into the lead. He was very, very quick. He was very, very quick. 309 points for that race, so that's quite a decent total for me. Okay, the scores are in. 586 total points. First in my local area, 11th in the UK, 65th in the entire regional ranking. So on the UK leaderboard, I'm going to have to start scoring above 300 a bit more regularly to move up into the top 10. And likewise within EMEA, 65th is okay at the moment, but I think we can get inside the top 50 if we start scoring a bit more regularly above 300. A nice tidy 9 million coming my way if I stay within the top brackets of each of these. But that was round 3. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.